And it's recording. There
It's
we
recording.
go. All right, Mary, it's all yours.
Cool. Hi, guys. You'll have to pardon the coughing. It's been grand fun. I hope you all stay healthier than me. So we are here today to talk a little bit about what distance learning attendance could look like. I am by far not the expert, but I am willing to share what I have seen and heard people doing as far as gathering attendance evidence. And I'm hoping that you guys are willing to share what you have seen and heard so we can kind of all learn together. So I know that many people are using video conference tools like Zoom or Google Meet. Those are the two primary ones for holding class sessions as normal, just like we kind of are now. Tracking those participants, so taking a look at who is there, really keeping track and making sure not only that they are attending, but trying to get students engaged is awesome. It's kind of like in class, there's always somebody or more than one somebody's hanging out in the back of the room and they're there, but hopefully we can get more than just my face was there. That is the hard part. I always will recommend that you really learn what your learning management system can do for you. So what tools are available and how can you leverage them? So how are you sharing lessons? How are you having students respond to you? Hopefully it's more than just, yep, here's your work and turn it back in. Can you start a discussion? Can they share via video? Can they, do a lot of different things that are not just, here's my worksheet kind of stuff, but homework completion can count as attendance for the day. So thinking about homework completion, do you have a specific time or date? Some districts I know are enforcing that it has to be turned in by 3:30 or by midnight on the same day. Some districts have, I think I've heard like 3, 4, or even up to a week lag for getting works turned in, and they can go back and still enter attendance for those days. So make sure you know what your district's attendance policy is and be super clear to the students to be count as present for that day. Here is what you have to accomplish. If you don't have a regular assignment to that day, you might have some sort of exit ticket. So a Google form, perhaps, or which are very handy, and you can use those in pretty much any platform. Share that link, or whatever tools you have within your LMS, use them. If there's a discussion board and you have people engaged that way, that's participation in class, that's attending. If there is some sort of test or quiz feature where they can respond to things, that can count as attending, or again, turning in that assignment. So what should an exit ticket look like? That's a huge variety of things. I've seen a couple people who just put, I was here today, check. And that's great, but that's not really enough because anybody can open that and click the button. But, have it be something useful. Is if you're working on a longer term project, maybe they're writing an English paper. One of the teachers that I was just working with, I said, okay, so how far should they be on a Wednesday morning with that project? Have questions or have them explain exactly where they are on that day, or tell them what sites they have sourced so far, or anything. What is their introductory paragraph going to look like? Have content-based questions for any of the lessons or videos that have been shared. If you have something going on in a class or in a video that they are watching later, ask questions about the content, but make it a little more interesting. Try to get them to watch those videos because I know they don't all the time. Ask a specific question about what happened when, you don't have to give a specific time because then they zoom through the videos to look at that. But what funny thing happened, partway through the video? Maybe somebody's cat jumped up on the screen, or maybe, all kinds of things can happen. So use those things to see if their students are really, really watching what's going on. So knowing that a lot of lessons are video recorded and posted, use the tools that you have available. So if your LMS is providing you with some sort of analytics or way to check for completion, use it. Use a website like Edpuzzle, which will tell you how many kids have gone through and watched the video in its entirety, or have those questions embedded in the video so that they can see what is going on. You can tell if they've been watching it or not. There's lots of small, short things you can do for attendance purposes. So those are some of the ideas that I have gathered from various places. I know it's not a ton, but I am curious to know, what have you guys found that has been helpful to you, or how have you been tracking attendance? What is working, or what is your district even requiring you to do?
I've just been utilizing Google Meets, being able to see the list of kids on the side there, and I just have a good old-fashioned check them off list. However, I have heard that some programs like Zoom or Google Meet have an option where it'll take attendance for you. I haven't figured out or looked into how that happens or how that works, but I have heard that. I don't know if it's true, but it's something that
We use
Okay.
that. We use that in Mora, and we get the print. You just get a CVS file. It's pretty nice. It has their log on time and log out time.
Okay, so that
Through Google
so maybe
Meet.
that is okay, and that comes to you in an email right after you close out of that meet, doesn't it?
Yeah, it takes a little while to process, but it comes out automatically.
Yeah, the only issue with that for us at Malacca, is where I teach, is that they want us to take attendance within like the first 15 minutes of our class time. So I don't know if that would be is accessible.
Yeah, that would
Yeah.
be tough then.
Yep.
Otherwise, in Mora, we're doing some of the exact same things that you've shared here. We do week attendance, so they have the week to do it. I was just writing down some notes. We have a staff work day and minimal student work on Wednesday, so I'm wondering if the work deadline is Tuesday at midnight, so that teachers can have that deadline and work on it on Wednesday. I'm going to go back to my staff and discuss that.
That I believe so. I know our elementary school is still following that schedule, where that we used in-person class. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday was their off day, distance learning day, or lesser day, and then Thursday, Friday, regular class. We run Wednesday to Wednesday in the elementary school with attendance. So teachers have to update their attendance for the past week on Wednesdays. At the high school, they structured things a little bit differently while they're in distance learning, and the teachers have a little more flexibility, but they can still go back 1 week. I believe they have to have it entered by the end of the day, 3:45 on Fridays for the past week. So we do have a little bit of wiggle room as far as making sure that your attendance is done, and it's so that you can count all of those ways. You might have somebody that joins in a video call. You might have somebody who's working on getting their work done. You might have another person who, submits things from Monday and Tuesday. They couldn't do it because they had to babysit, or they had to go to grandma's house and no internet, or somebody comes by and cuts the cable. I've heard that happens. So they have time to catch up and still get their work finished and counted as present for the day.
Our school, I mark kids absent. I give them an unlimited timeline to turn in their work, and then I go back and change it if they do it. But I also know other teachers have not marked any kids absent at all. So that's kind of why I joined, because we haven't been given a direction, which is because we don't really know. It's kind of learning as we go at this point. But I feel like they have to complete something or be in the Zoom meeting at least to be present. So I haven't marked anyone absent in 3 weeks now, but it's a struggle to, especially with younger kids, parents have to send them to daycare and then they come home late, and it's different when they're not independent. So that's been my struggle in first grade.
Mm-hmm. Do you have unlimited access to your attendance? So if somebody turns something in from 3 weeks ago, you can go back that far?
Yep, our secretary said, tell me anytime, and she'll go back and fix
Wow.
it. Mm-hmm.
We do it for just the quarter at a time. So at the end of that quarter, they can't turn in work and so we just start fresh with each quarter.
I think that's smart. We do need to have a lot of leeway, a lot of grace. I understand that, but there also has to be a limit to how much the teachers are expected to track and go back for. That's my opinion, at least. I think attendance wise, we have gone back for a couple of weeks, but not more than that for attendance. However, teachers are still accepting work up until the end of the quarter. And we even gave them 2 weeks beyond the quarter if they needed to finish something up. They got an incomplete if they didn't pass the class. They had a 2-week grace to finish up any work. And before that was it, we called the first quarter. And from what I understand, not that many kids went back to finish their first quarter work and earn a grade. Or those that didn't do the new work that was part of second quarter, which is where the problem lies. There is a limit too to how much stuff you can do when you get that far behind.
Are you finding much different between the middle schoolers, especially 4th to like 7th grade, that are actually completing their work and turning it in person when you had classes compared to over online?
What I have heard is for most kids, if they did the work in person, they're generally doing it online. If they didn't do the work when they were in class,
The same
oddly, they didn't do it online either.
Okay.
And I would be willing to venture a guess for many of the very same reasons. Some of the support systems that they have at home are not always stellar, or priorities, distractedness.
Right.
You know, if it's hard to corral them to focus when they're in person, it's even harder to do that when they're online and at home in their own environment.
Okay.
Without physically trying to call them every day and say, hey, it's time to do your math.
Right. I'm in Bremen. We're not all doing that yet. Not all the grades are there, so we're still having school.
Randy, maybe you can address this, but do you know what the requirements are from the state for reporting attendance?
There are no requirements that I know of. I think it's based on the local decisions. At least I haven't seen any guidance. Maybe it'll be coming.
That's what Chris is the principal where I teach, and she said that I don't think they've been given any guidance either. And so that's why she's like, it's kind of like learn as we go and what's working. And so I thought I better, since I was on her and bothering her all the time about what to do, I thought I better come to this meeting and make sure I got the latest info.
I think the state says to have an attendance policy.
That's what we've been told, but that's exactly what the state has said. Have a policy, follow it to the best of your ability with a little bit of flexibility. Although they have made a couple comments about truancy. So I can tell you our process, gather your attendance evidence, however you're doing that, whether it's attending actual Zooms or work completion or exit tickets or however. If a student in our district has not been engaged, which means they're not attending, they're not completing work, because that's how we're counting our attendance. After a couple of days, I think it's like 2 days, teacher is expected to give that student a phone call, student and or parent, whatever you can do, say, hey, you haven't been getting your work done. Here's what you need to be working on, get moving. So an email or a phone call or some sort of personal contact. If they go another day or two where they're still not attending, the expectation is that we have a Google form in one building and just a shared sheet in the other to fill out with information that says this student is not engaged, this contact points that I have attempted to make. And the next step is our school counselor gives that family a call, trying to get them motivated to get back in and engaged in school. If that doesn't work, the principal gives a call. If goes another couple of days and that student is still not engaged, they get a lovely home visit with the principal and our SRO. So, and if that still doesn't work, then the county is involved.
Yeah, and we meet each Monday. Actually, we shifted it to Tuesday with all of our social workers at the elementary, and our staff submit a Google form on students that they haven't had contact with or haven't had work completion from. And we've kind of used a checklist. We'll review the first week, and then we went to the second week to see which names were still on there. And we kind of have leveled it. We'll start with phone call interventions. Our social workers have done a couple of home visits, and then, we started to make our 3-day, 5-day, and 7-day letters based on the Google form that the teachers are submitting.
This is Corrine, and I'm calling in from Hinckley Elementary, and I'm the staff at our school who deals with following up on attendance and reports and doing the letters. And I can just say that there's been very little guidance. And what we're struggling with is because so many of our students are remote and they do not have internet as even an option. So taking attendance is either through Google Meets, but my understanding is that that's not a sole method of taking attendance because of our population. So another way that we're taking attendance, and this is daily, but teachers have to turn it in, I believe, weekly for us to enter it into the system. And so families will have to connect with their teacher. It's our hopes that it is daily, and whether that's through a remind text message, an email, Google Meet, or the completion of the daily schoolwork. If those are completed, then they're marked that they're present for the day. We run a report every week, and we do home visits on a weekly basis. We are sending truancy letters. We're involving the county. We do have Indian education coordinating team that we can go out and meet with these families. And we've also filed truancy letters with the county and even have looked at some students that have been unenrolled for more than 20 consecutive days and looking at unenrolling them as students. So at this point, I think it's fair to say truancy and attendance is a nightmare, to say the least, and very, very time consuming. So I was interested in joining this just to see if there was insight or direction on truancy and attendance taking.
From what you described is what I have heard and experienced as well. And it is a problem. We have also unenrolled students after the 15 days. And that's after we've tried multiple times to connect with them in multiple different ways and had visits and had, the bottom line, unfortunately, is we can't hound them or sit in their house personally until their students are engaged. At some point the family needs to be responsible, and that's why we do have the truancy process, but it still stinks. I would be willing to bet you could talk to any teacher. The participation levels that they have when kids are at home are nowhere close to what you're going to be able to have when they're in person. This is a reality of what we're dealing with. So stinks, but that's the truth.
There are some programs like the Guardian where they can actually supervise what the student's doing if they're on the internet all day and what time they go on and off and what programs they're on. You know about that? At least a person would have a little bit of idea there if they're playing games on their computer or not all day.
I had that discussion with a parent yesterday.
Yeah. Our older grades have had good success with that. I think they use it in maybe 3rd through 6th grade in our school. But they've had good luck. They'll be like, well, you played games all day, so I definitely know that you have internet access and you were not feeling sick or anything. But it's tough in the younger grades that, we don't have that. So
Yeah, I work with Stephanie too, and the teachers keep track of how much contact they're having with kids, and we've kind of created a list of kids that are more disengaged from kindergarten all the way up to 6th grade, and we've called them in. As long as their parents can drive them in, they've come in for tutoring, and we're trying to keep the numbers down, but we've had quite a few kids coming in. We've been pretty full twice a week. We're bringing them in for tutoring. I worked with a kindergartner who was 37 lessons behind. Basically, he hadn't been to school since we went to distance learning. And I worked him pretty hard for a couple hours. So he was ready to go home. But yeah, we've been trying to bring kids in into the building so that we can get them working, and had some success with some of those really disengaged ones.
Is anybody else bringing kids into the building to receive extra assistance?
Just our special education, some of our more severe special ed.
I saw some churches are offering tutoring for grades 6 through 12, but I haven't known about the public school, but I've noticed that they've advertised to help kids with tutoring.
I think we've had kids going to Treehouse still too in the Sandstone area.
I know we've tried to set we have paras, the high school paras are running our study hall. So it is an open Zoom session for the entire day. It's open to any student. Again, it's internet based. Our district, most of the students are online, and that's been working fairly well. There's a very rare instances where students are still struggling with that. And a school hotspot, there's a couple where they're at isn't working very well just because location. Hotspot doesn't go everywhere, especially down by the river. So that study hall is open, and they've been having breakout rooms for the kids. You can sit in that study hall all day long if you don't happen to have regular classes and get help with your homework. So that's available to all the high school students from 7:30 in the morning until 3:30 in the afternoon. And elementary, those who have been having more difficulty, we have been pairing them up with elementary paras to get one-on-one or sometimes two-on-one assistance. So whether that's just to have another checkpoint to make sure that they are up out of bed and working, or to make sure that they're getting the help they need, we've been providing a lot of that online. Some kids I know that are already in the tier 1 daycare are getting a little extra help. We haven't had any SPED kids coming into the building or any other tutoring services coming in that I am aware of.
Yeah, with our tutoring program, it's actually no teachers are involved and no paras are involved because they're all busy doing other things. They're teaching other kids, or they're doing the daycare, or they're delivering things on a bus. So it's been the principal, it's been the counselor, it's been the ADSIS person, and myself, school psychologist, that have been doing. We've brought other people in from outside the building too to provide some help. So most of these kids are really struggling, and so we can't even do 2-on-1 with them. It's got to be 1-to-1 basically. So.
And a lot of them, Sean, are kids that, like she had talked about earlier, they struggled when they were in school too. It's not a surprise. In my class, at least, the two that are going did nothing for me either. So I know their parents struggle. It's not easy. And our other struggle, it's like you said, the hotspots. I have 6 in my class out of 14 that have a school issued hotspot, and they share it with a sibling. And so Zoom isn't an option because they burn up their data too fast, or they don't have fast enough internet. So I've been trying to do C3 and Zoom so that they have 2 opportunities for instruction, but it's definitely a challenge.
Are you using Jamboard a lot? So you're able to actually get them moving and interacting, and they can't just be writing stuff on a whiteboard and doing or scribbling?
Are you asking me in Seesaw, you mean? Or
Anybody.
Jam?
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to say it. Not familiar with that. stuff, they have to respond to your slide and record themselves. So that works super well for me. And then if they don't follow the direction, I can leave them a recorded comment and tell them like what part they missed, and then they have to try again and send it back. But Jamboard I've heard is kind of similar. I just have never used it.
I know I've heard a few of the teachers talking about it. I don't know how many have been using it with any success.
All right, any other thoughts or ideas for the morning?
I guess it sounds to me like most schools, except for Hinckley, I think would be an exception, have like an attendance policy in place. Is that correct? Like kind of some guidance? No, I don't mean that. Nothing against my principal, because I wouldn't know what to do either. It's super hard. And the teacher, like teachers have different opinions on it too. But I think that's hard to leave it up to the teacher's discretion. So I'm just curious if that's pretty much true, that it's made a top-down decision, or I don't know.
I think it would be awfully hard if you think about families. If it's left up to the teacher, what one teacher or one grade level is doing is going to be very different from another. And if you've got a 3rd grade kid and a 7th grade kid and the attendance policy is wildly different, how do you that makes it hard for the family to understand what's going on.
Yeah, or like I have 1st graders and I marked them absent 16 days in a row because they did no work for 16 days. I mean, I reached out to them every single day, but then the other teacher, she feels super bad for parents, which I do too, and she hasn't marked any kids absent. So now I'm like, uh-oh, now I have kids that are going to be dropped from the school, and she has 0 that have missed any days. So I just felt like that inconsistency was, I was going to be the bad guy. So I was like, I better stop doing that for a while.
I don't know that I would stop doing it. I think you're being accurate. And the one who's trying to give grace, I understand, but you're actually not helping the kid get back on track and learn, which is our primary role. If they're not working or they're not there, it's part of our job to make that connection with them, figure out how we can get them pulled back in and engaged again. The teacher's not reporting that. It sucks to have to say, hey, you're not there, I'm marking you absent. But we need to find the next step to get that kid back and involved again. So we've been very clear, mark them absent. It's not your fault completely that they're not attending. We want to get them more supports and help. If you're not reporting that they're absent, we can't take the next step.
Have you tried
and the welfare of the child?
Oops,
who knows?
Sorry.
I was just going to say, we don't know if no one's looking into their home life or their situation and nobody's seen them for 20 days. Like, that's what my concern is. Are they being fed and taken care of? And, I can be in contact with the parent, but if we're not seeing the kid or hearing him or anything, it's kind of concerning to me. Like, I'd like someone looking into it. So.
Have you tried the neighborhood pods at all, where you maybe have 4 families in the same block, so it's the consistent kids meeting? They're not getting outside people into it, but there is action with a tutor either in person or online, but it's like the same people, just like being in the same household. I wonder if that would be more supportive.
I've heard of a few families that are doing that on their own, but nothing that is organized.
Oh, and Stephanie, just so you know, we're not unenrolling anybody anyway, because yeah.
I forgot. I shouldn't have said that, but I was thinking that the old policy was after 15 days, they were dropped automatically, but Chris had said that that's changed now. So that was my initial fear, but it's no longer happening. So.
Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us this morning. We're going to repeat this afternoon. So if you have ideas that you have come up with, feel free to rejoin us. just send me a message and I'll add you to the call. I understand that time is precious, and I thank you for spending it with us this morning. Mary, awesome job, and we'll see you this afternoon.
Cool.
Okay.
If you guys didn't see it, I did post the link to that presentation in the chat, so go ahead and grab it. If you have an idea, add it to there. I will put what Rush City Schools steps are as far as attendance and contacting the student after X amount of days. So if you want a reference for that, it'll be there. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day, everyone.